Here we are at a very, very, very special episode of Varsity House Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Crawford. And then on this episode, we have my brother, a big brother to me, a legend around South Bend, a legend just around his hometown, Hawaii as well, Manti Te'o. So appreciate you coming in. I know it's been a busy road. It's been a busy journey for you ever since Untold dropped, but not a lot of people nowadays get to rewrite their story.
Yeah.
And you had the opportunity to with the documentary Untold. And so just talk about how that opportunity came apart and then what made you want to speak up about it now? Like what made you want to come out and give your side of the story right now?
Well, I think in order to understand that, like, you can't tell a story if you're not ready for it. I think especially a story like mine, for a lot of years, I wasn't in the mental space, emotional space to kind of tell something like that. There's a lot that goes into it. And so throughout my growth, especially after 2017, I was able to do some growing personally, some healing. And so by the time Netflix came up to me in 2020, I was able to be in a space where I could tell it, as long as a platform that came my way was willing to do right by the story. And so it's kind of like the perfect blend of two sides, one that was willing to do it the right way and the other one that was in the right space and mind frame and just in a good chapter of my life where I could do it. So it was kind of perfect.
We definitely gonna talk about it, but from that time, 2013 to 2020, when they approached you with the opportunity, what were some of the things that you had to grow personally in order for you to get this story told?
Well, one, not caring what people say. I think that's a big thing in society nowadays is everybody takes everybody's opinions and they weigh them heavily. And so me being young, me not understanding the impact that had on me and how that was impacting me internally, it wasn't until I really stopped caring about other people's opinions that I actually started to focus on myself and what I truly felt was important to me and who I was, and started to regain my balance in my life. And once that happened, I think things step by step, it was a process. It took some time, but I eventually got there. And when I got to that place where I was at peace with everything, that was when I was able to kind of regain who I was and regain my balance, and everything kind of was smooth.
Yeah, I know, especially now, mental health is obviously a huge topic, and everyone wants to go and be proactive, and take advantage of the resources that are out there. And so I know in the doc you talk about this is the first time that you didn't have confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
During this situation, to
Yeah.
where when you talk about that from a football player's perspective, it's like I'm going on the field and I'm playing two different games.
Yeah.
I'm playing a game on the field and I'm playing a game within my head. And so speaking from experience, to where it's just like, oh, you maybe had a bad game, or especially like playing corner, it's like short-term memory, but it's very hard for any player to have that. And so I go out there, I give up a deep pass for a touchdown, and it's like now I'm playing a mental game in my head, like, all right, I can't, now I got to play off, I got to play soft, I'm hesitant and things like that, to where it maybe was increased for you because it was like, you mentioned, it's like, I got to be perfect, I got to make this tackle, I got to make this play. So just talk about that into a sense to where maybe not even on the field, but just like how people play these mind games just in society, and have to deal with that on a daily basis, to where it's a lot of like not self-love, to where it's just like, oh, I know who I am, I'm true to myself, but you're letting the outside noise kind of dictate who you are and how you go about your day. So kind of talk about how that like came about for you, to where it's like you had to play these two different games, like these mental games, and then kind of how you just was ready for all of it to like just be over and be done with.
Well, I mean, that's a big question. I think a lot of the times and I say we, I mean everybody as individuals, we have to figure out like who we truly are, because a lot of times we can't distinguish between who we are and who other people say we are, because a lot of times who we become has a lot to do with who people say that we are, especially people who we consider in our inner circle.
Right.
And what was hard for me was prior to 2012, matter of fact, prior to 2013, because 2012 was a great year, everything was positive, right? Everything was congratulations, everything was you're the best, everything was I love you, everything was just positive affirmation after positive affirmation that came my way, congratulations after congratulations. And then 2013 comes and it's the total opposite. And so I started to realize how much I really weighed people's opinions of me, and how much I looked at my image and how my image that I saw in the mirror, I really didn't know for myself who I was. I could just hear the narratives that everybody was saying. And so it was a journey for me to understand, okay, screw what this person thought, screw what this person said, screw what this person said I was this great, screw that this person said that I wasn't great. Like, who are you, bro? Like, you know, and I think that took a long time. I started to do an experiment every morning and every night, where I would look at myself in the mirror and I said, you that dude, bro. And in all honesty, when I started doing that in 2014, it was a whisper. And it was a whisper because I didn't really believe it at that time, you know. But volume reflects confidence, and I know that as a middle linebacker, that when I don't really know something, I'm a little quiet. I'm not communicating that well with my teammates because I don't want to say something wrong.
Right.
But when I'm 100% certain on something, I'm gonna tell you what to do. I'm gonna tell him what to do. I'm gonna tell him he's misaligned, and that confidence is reflected in the volume at which I say it. And so, as I fast forwarded a few years down the line, when I say years, I mean years. Like every day, saying that, like, you that dude, it started to get louder to the point where I didn't have to say it, and I could just look at myself like, yeah,
I'm that dude.
yeah.
But I feel like you had the answers to maybe get rid of this negative narrative, because I feel like to where it was a point to where like no one stopped caring about football. I mean, you won every award that a defensive player can win at your position your senior year, and it was just like, all right, we're gonna throw all that out of the window. Here's this hoax or this scam that people were, you know, accusing you of, and then even going as far as like comparing you to Tiger and comparing you to Lance Armstrong. I don't even know how that comes about, because it's like, if I see the season that you had and I see the type of guy you are, it's like, okay, when you put your names next up to them, it's going to be for the accolades. It's going to be for great athlete or whatever, like all time, whatever. But instead it was different. So how, like, knowing you could change the narrative to where it's like, okay, this is really what happened in 2013, right when it happened, to try to just clear the air. Why did that, like, why weren't you able to like take that step forward and be like, all right? And I personally think, I could be wrong for sure, I wasn't going through it, but I'm thinking like, I'm getting all this hate, like they don't know the truth. It's like, all right, screw it, let me go out there and tell the truth and try to clear the air, and then that may help me perform the way I need to perform on the field. Yeah, well, I think everything is by case basis, and I think especially for what I was a victim of is catfishing. You know, it's not like I was a victim of like somebody who got beat up. Right. You know what I mean? Like, catfishing is not like the most like easy thing to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, you just got duped. You know what I mean? It is, but like nowadays it's like, it's so simple, because you can get catfished to a point to where it's like, you can meet up with a girl and like her edits and effects look so great on Instagram or whatever. It's like when you see her and it's not, you know, you can shake the body, you could do all this stuff. But that was a beautiful, and that was a powerful part, and I'm so grateful for Netflix for how they did it. Was the landscape in 2009 to 2012 was different than it is in 2022. And so the challenge was to help a 2022 audience think about how it was back then. You know, that's when Facebook just came out. Like, all of these things started to come out, and so I was grateful that they were able to do that. That they were able to help the viewer think back then. I mean, obviously nowadays it's like, oh, bro, it's easy. Like, you know, that happens all the time. Like, I would have done this, and this. But back then it was like, bro, the term catfish. Like, I always ask people, and a lot of my teammates would ask me, you know, how was it, bro? Like, I would ask them, I was like, how'd you learn about catfish? And it's like, oh, you? I was like, guess how I learned about catfish? Me. Like, I was the example for everybody, right? And so that was, and that's the part that sucks, because it's like, let you be a regular, you know, regular middle linebacker for, you know, any team. Yep. And you don't have the success that you have, and it's like, now everything's like at a higher level just because you're at Notre Dame. Right. and Notre Dame is winning.
Right.
And that's even, for me, I was part of two playoff teams. So, like, a winning Notre Dame is like, is all you wish
Right.
for. You know, that's all the media wishes for. So, just going through that, it's tough. It's a tough situation because it's like, you look at it as like anybody else, any regular, everyday person, it's like, oh, they got catfish, move on.
Yeah.
But it was like it was like, oh my gosh, it's this new thing. And I want to kind of talk about it from my perspective because I was a freshman in high school, or a sophomore, junior in high school. Had to be a sophomore. But so when I'm watching it, I don't watch Notre Dame football. But back in high school, I'm a sophomore, I don't watch Notre Dame football. From Ohio, but what got me into Notre Dame football was the 2012 Notre Dame football team. And I think that's like a huge kudos to you for one, and then also to your teammates, because it's like y'all really put Notre Dame on the map. To where it's just like I feel like Notre Dame was kind of falling off and wasn't on the national radar. But you got to really see in that year how special Notre Dame was and how strong the community was. And so when I'm looking at it, to me, I'm just on Twitter. I'm at the point where Twitter is like anything goes. You could say whatever. You could tweet about like just had lunch today. Like anything on Twitter goes. And Facebook, I was like, whatever. Like I use it. It's complicated, you know, relationship status and stuff like that. But that's as far as I knew it, to where it's like when I look at it, it's like I see Manti Te'o, I see Notre Dame football as this great team. That really put me on the map, to where it's like, the whole thing that kind of happened after the national championship, to me, it's like whatever. Like I know you for the football player you are, and what the doc did really showed me how genuine of a person you were. And I don't think a lot of people and I think that's why a lot of people are starting to, you know, say, oh, we owe him apology and things like that, because it came from a great place. It came from a true heart. And I think I don't want to before we even get done with this, I don't want that to go unnoticed, because watching you play and then watching the doc, it was just like everything matched up, to where it's like, say you're out doing some BS, to where it's like I personally don't think God rewards that type of behavior, to where it's like when you go into it and you're true to yourself, you're true to your faith, and you really are caring and disciplined about the way you move. There's no reason, or there's no excuse as to why Notre Dame went as far as they did. And so I truly believe that, and so that's kind of where I saw it from back when I was in high school. I'm like, okay, this team's going crazy. He has an amazing story that also helps the team that's going crazy. But other than that, going through that season, to where you start off, and then obviously Notre Dame goes on and they were undefeated, but talk about just week to week, just the pressure that you felt while here. And then on top, not only from the fans as a football perspective, but the pressure that you felt personally, what you were dealing with.
You know, it's amazing about when you go through trials like that, because and I talked about this on CBS. What was really difficult after everything transpired was that there was not a lot of attention put on. It's almost like people talked about my grandmother who really did pass away, as if it was nothing. And so. That was tough for me, but whenever you go through some big trial, right? For me, I turn to God. That's immediately, because I understand life gets really, the essence of life gets really clear for me, and when I'm going through something that's hard, I always turn to God, and I really one, I try to get some healing. Two, I try to get some knowledge. Okay, why am I going through what I'm going through? What's the lesson? And so the reason why 2012, honestly, I didn't feel really no pressure was when I was going through those hard times, my spiritual life took over. I really hammered down on my spiritual life. Bro, I wasn't out. I was at the house studying. I was studying film about everybody. I didn't go out. I didn't hang out. Everything for me was business. This is what I came back my senior year to do something big, and I'm going to do it. And so for me, everything became internal, where the only thing I was worried about and focused on was getting me to be the best that I could be. So when I went in that stadium, it didn't really matter who I was going up against, because I knew, based on my preparation, my hard work, the sacrifices that I made for that week and my whole life, that it didn't matter who was standing against me. I was going to beat you regardless, because I was just I was just that focused and I was that prepared and I was just in that mode, bro, you know, and so
Now, did that change? I know on the doc, Robbie talked about, and then your dad, they kind of mentioned that when in that national championship game, they felt like it wasn't you out there.
oh yeah. I mean, honestly, bro, like I'm not gonna say like for me to say like, oh, if I played my best, like we would have won the game, you know. I mean, I want to give Alabama the credit because that team, bro, that lineup over there,
Amazing.
it was amazing. Like three out of five or four out of the five O linemen went first round. Like you had Eddie Lacy, you had Amari Cooper, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had TJ Yeldon who was backing him up. Like that was just a stack. You know, that was one of the best teams, right? And we went out there and we did our best. I went out there and I did my best. Now, obviously, mentally, I was going through a lot of things, but, you know, I honestly looked at the football field as an escape. Because, okay, listen, bro, I can't control a lot of things, but I can control, like, what I do best, and it's football. And so, obviously, those who knew me best could look at it and be like, bro, you know, you could tell he wasn't really there. But I'm not going to say, like, yeah, man, I wasn't there, so, no, bro. Like, I went out there, I put my best foot forward like I always do. And we were walking to the good earlier and we saw all the trophies, right? And I was showing my wife like, oh, I won that one. Look, my name's over here. My name's under this trophy, this one, this one, this one. And then they pointed towards the Heisman. So it's like, oh, he almost won one of those. And then I pointed to the crystal one. I was like, but I wish I won one of those.
Right.
You know, so that's.
Yeah, talk about that Heisman run you went on, because that was a year Johnny Manziel went crazy as well.
Yep.
And so you talk about that story to where you have a hell of a season, like you had seven picks in one season.
Yep.
And that's a DB's dream. I think the most I got in the season was like 4.
Still a lot, bro.
And I know, but I'm saying like the season that you had was unreal.
Yep.
And it's just wild to me that it just really goes unnoticed, because not only did you give like Notre Dame fans hope to where it's like, okay, Notre Dame is back, but you also I feel like you gave like just defensive players around the country hope.
Yep.
To where, I mean, before you, it might have been Ndamukong Suh.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was you, and then it was Tyrann Mathieu.
Mm-hmm.
To where it's like, okay, like you go out there and you have this amazing season. You have an opportunity to win the Heisman.
Yep.
And so watching you do that, and then you get to the Heisman ceremony. Just talk about that experience a little bit. Obviously, not a lot of people, get to experience that, but definitely talk about that, and then even just like maybe any funny or memorable experiences from that event.
So, the Heisman was like, I think the third or fourth stop on that little award tour. We started in North Carolina, then we went to Houston, then we went to Florida, and then we went to New York for the Heisman. That was just something. It was just a great experience for me. I think the best part about it all was that Notre Dame was able to take my family with me, like my parents. So to have my parents there, like for me, like everything was not only cool for me to experience myself, but to have my parents there. The two people who were just the main people why I was there. They're the main people why I got to where I got to, and so for me to share it with them and then to be there, it was cool, man. Like Klein, I think his name was Colin Klein. That's his name, the quarterback, and Johnny Manziel, cool dudes, man. Like we're all just excited to go there. New York had a certain feel, but yeah, bro. Honestly, I was like, I want to just go back to South Bend. You know what I mean? Like I want to be with the guys, and I know all the guys are waiting, and they're back here, like practicing, getting ready for Bama. And I was like, man, I just want to go back to the guys and just be with the dudes.
That period from the USC game to the national championship, a lot of people don't know this, but during that period, that's when you found out about or her not being dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you found out that she's actually alive, or that she's back alive, or whatever. And during that time from USC to the national championship, a lot of people don't understand that that's just football.
Yeah.
There's no class, there's no distractions where other students are on campus. To where it's like you might have went throughout that day to where went throughout that time to where it's like all you thought about was that situation.
Yeah.
And you had all this on your heart. You got the Heisman ceremony. You got all this other stuff going on, and then at the end of it, you got Bama.
Yeah.
So talk about to where it's just like in that moment, what's going through your moment at that point? Because it's like you're winding down to the last game of your season, but there's so much uncertainty in your life.
Well, it's just chaotic. It's just chaos. It's just total chaos. Like I really don't. I really can't put into words. Like you're just numb at that point, you know, and you don't really know what to do. And so for me, it's kind of like I just got real singular minded, you know. It's just like, man, I just want to play ball, you know, like whatever condition I am, I'm just gonna. I got one more game. We've had a magical year. I love my teammates. I love my team. I love my school. And the best way I can go out is winning the national championship. And bro, literally, bro, when we walked on that field, like I thought we could win, you know. And so, like, I I think as athletes we're good at compartmentalizing everything. You know what I mean, bro? Like we're able to go through everything and put things into perspective so that we could operate at our best in the classroom and then switch and then operate at our best on the football field and then switch and operate at our best, you know, in business, regardless of what we're going through. And so that's what I did. I did my best to do it, and I thought that I was doing a pretty good job, you know, and I felt like I was ready for the game, and we went out there, and I just wish that, like I said, I wish I could say I was a national champion, bro. That's the greatest thing ever, bro. Just be able to say that, especially here at Notre Dame.
Yeah. Now, fast forwarding just a little bit, I guess, to right now, or just even like right after the draft and things like that. A lot of stuff obviously came out, but one thing I wanted to know, like, have you ever had the opportunity to speak to Diane?
No.
Because that's a whole type of thing to where it's just like I was talking to my buddy earlier, and it was like everything, like you do something and you don't realize that it comes back to just like hurt other people that aren't even involved. You know what I mean? And so I kind of want to talk about to where is football at, like right now for you? Like like for me, it's like football is just like it ended well for me or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like for you, you didn't go out on your terms.
I did. And that's where I think it would be good for me to answer is I did. I played like I didn't play the type of football that I wanted to play when I was a San Diego Charger. That was probably one of my biggest regrets, and I couldn't because mentally and emotionally I was just done. Like I was scrambling. I was really trying to find out who I was, and just like how you talked about before, there's the mental game that you got to play. And if you're not there mentally, bro, I think any athlete or any person in general, the best thing you could have is your confidence. If you ain't confident in what you're doing, bro, you're not gonna last. Especially if you're in the pros. Like if you ain't confident in your abilities, bro, you're gonna lose. Like that, you have zero chance, right? And so, like I was able to do all of that stuff and try to heal. But then when I got to the Saints, it was a different story. I started to play the game that I remember playing, and I actually played really good football my first year at the Saints, to the point where I thought we were going to have a really good shot at extending my contract with them. But you know, things happen. The business of football kind of got there. Politics kind of got in the way a little bit. But I was able in 2022 to finish my career in Chicago the way I wanted to. I played my last game in a playoff game against the Saints. And I had a heck of a game, man. And now for me, bro, like football, it's always going to be like that game for me. You know what I mean? Like it brought me so much. It's done so much for me. It's, you know, it's had me meet you. Like I remember meeting you the first time, bro, over there outside with Alohi. Like I remember that, bro. After you just got hurt, and I just remember thinking like, dang, bro, I know how that feels, you know? And so it's brought so much in my life, and I will always be forever grateful for it. But now me being a dad, bro, like you'll see when you have kids, bro, it's the greatest thing in the world, bro. And so my next goal is hopefully I'll get another Te'o in there in that stadium. Hopefully, you know, Notre Dame will recruit my son, you know. I got one coming, so we'll see. You know, you have a little oos running around.
No, definitely. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Vainuku,
yeah.
Vainuku, director of your doc. I feel like he did a great way of capturing like the culture, like your culture, your family, your religion, and things of that nature, to where maybe just expand on that because I feel like the media here, I guess the mainland is what Alohi called it.
Yeah.
Really just like criticized you. They didn't understand just like how important and how, like, I guess valuable like your culture and like how strong your family is there.
Yeah.
And for them to just kind of degrade you and just degrade your family's name was ridiculous. To where Vainuku, he took it. I feel like he took it a step further in the doc to really capture that. And
Yeah.
so just probably talk about just the culture back home, really.
Well, the culture back home is, I mean, you'll know from talking about the Aloha, there's this thing called the Aloha spirit, right? And it's something that we really try to live by. You know, it's really being loving, always helping others. Like you've met like a couple polys, like we're always going to invite. You're always inclusive. Like everything is like, bro, like if you need help, I got you. Now, if you're hungry, I'm gonna feed you. You know, we may not even know you. Like my auntie or my mom will probably invite you in the house to come eat. You know what I mean? That's always like the Polynesian culture is a loving culture, but don't get it twisted. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't
No,
cross
it's definitely
anybody.
tough. Definitely tough.
But like everybody, as far as their identity, is built on who they are, what they've been taught, and where they come from. And I think it's something that, as a society, we need to get back to. Like, what's the roots? Where do we come from? That makes us good human beings.
And then you talk about that to where now being from Notre Dame, I kind of know what it has to offer, and now you do too. But when you were choosing like colleges and stuff, like obviously USC was your number one. And why USC? You didn't like expand on that.
Well, USC, because back at that time, USC was like now what Alabama is now. Like USC had Reggie Bush, you know, Matt Leinart, like they had Troy Polamalu, you know, like Junior Seau played there. And so all of these Polynesian players that we all kind of looked up to growing up, they all played there. And at that time when I was growing up, that's when like USC was at the top of college football. And so, you know, like any little kid that saw Polynesian players playing and they're doing very, very well, I was like, oh man, like I'm a root for SC. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important to where just before we finish up, I definitely want to, I'm doing a little study and I kind of want to see, I always think like worst decision and best decisions always kind of correlate. And before we hop off, I definitely want to just get like in closing, just like maybe yours to where you can just share.
Worst decision and best decision?
Yeah.
I would say my best decision. My best decision, there's two. And this is 100% authentic.
100 check.
So I got two. My best decision, I got two of them, and this is authentic as I can get. Number one was marrying my wife. That was one of the best decisions I ever made, because not only has she been a pillar in my life, but she's also given me a beautiful daughter and a son on the way. And those three humans are the most important humans in my life. They've given me an extra heartbeat, an extra passion for life. That's number one. And number two is when I decided to come to this school. Notre Dame has changed my life in ways that I can never pay Notre Dame back. And if I could, I would come back to Notre Dame again and again and again and again and again. That's how much I love this place. That's how much this place. And when I mean this place, I don't just mean the buildings. I mean the people. It's the people here that have really took me. They took me out of the island, an 18-year-old kid that only knew so much, and opened his eyes to the possibilities of what life could be, and have stuck by me through thick and thin. And so I would say those two are the best decisions. The worst decisions I ever made, that's a hard answer for me to answer, because one of the biggest switches that I made in my life was a stoic kind of mindset, where what's happened to me was meant to happen to me, and it's to bring the best out of me. And the suckiest things that happened to me have made me elevate to a level where now I'm at heights that not a lot of people can get to. But I wouldn't have gotten there if I wouldn't have got this, right? Like the catfishing thing, I wouldn't have got to this height. And when I mean a height, I mean like a mentality and an understanding of life and an empathy where I'm like, okay, I can help anybody and everybody go through anything, because I mean, to be that low and to come back up, like I've been there, bro.
I mean, this was definitely an honor to have you, to have you on, and I appreciate it. We're definitely at the best university in the country, Notre Dame. So I appreciate you getting on. I mean, it's all love. Like at the end of the
Gotcha,
day,
bro.
I appreciate you hopping on. That we've been talking we've known each other for some years
Yeah.
now, and the opportunity finally came. So I support everything you're doing. Wish your wife health and or delivery.
Thank you, bro.
And so, blessings to the rest of your family as
You
well.
too,
So
bro.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. You
Definitely.
already know what it is, brother. It's family, bro. I appreciate
Love
you.
you.
Yeah, love
Yeah,
you, brother.
yeah.
Yeah.